Hello everyone, today I'm going to show you how to make a single and a double flare using this Matco Tools double flaring kit. This will be, you need to produce a single flare and a double flare. A single flare is for fuel systems, other applications that don't have high pressure. A double flare will be for brake systems where pressures can reach up to 3000 psi plus. So you need that extra strength on that double flare. So I've got my my bar here. Note that on the bar I've got a very heavy bevel on one side here, and then on the back side there is no real bevel on this here, and the writing's also on this side here. So for the single and the double flare, we're going to use the side here that has a that has the bevel on it. So I've got my adapters right here. This is the 3/16 right here, and that's the one that we're going to use because we're using 3/16 brake line. We've got our yoke right here, and we've got our cutoff tube. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to take a piece of brake line, and I'm going to cut off just for this assignment. I'm going to cut off about 6 inches of brake line. If you're wondering what that is, go from about your pinky to the end of your thumb. Okay, and the idea behind this is that I'm going to use this tool right here, and I want to put it on there, and you really want to not put a lot of pressure on this. You can tighten this up, but you don't tighten it down a whole lot. Less is actually better on this because you'll have a nice clean cut on this. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to run it a few times, and I'm going to turn it maybe 1/8 of a turn, and then I'm going to run this around another 1/8 of it a turn, and I'm going to run this around here. Okay, and bringing this around, it takes longer this way, but it gives you a much nicer end on it. And if you start out with good stock, you'll have good stock when you're done. So just going 1/8 of a turn, turn this, bring this around. Like I said, it takes a little longer for it to do this. There we go. All right, I'm going to pick up my piece that fell on the ground. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is the ends of this, they're cut off, but they're going to be a little bit rough. So I'm going to take a file, and I'm just going to file this just a few times here in this. And I'm filing around, and then I'm going to take this part here, and I'm just going to run it around on the edge. Not very much, just trying to take off any burrs that are on there. Same thing I'm going to do on the other side here. Okay. Okay, the next tool I'm going to use is this right here. It's a burr remover. So I'm just going to go in here, and I'm going to use this, and I'm going to just kind of turn that a little bit, okay? Get off the burrs on both ends here. Okay, so now I have a nice stock to start with. So, okay, in order to use this now, I'm going to take this here, and if you look on this real closely, I've got 1/2 inch, 7/16, 5/16, 1/4 inch, 3/16, 3/8, okay, so forth and so forth, and then 5/8 right here. So I'm going to use the 3/16, and here's the thing that drives me crazy is people will sit there and they'll use a bar on this, or they'll use a pliers to tighten these down. You don't need to do that. I'm going to show you how to put this in there. First, make sure you got both of these here nice and loose. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put this in there, and what I want to do is I want to bring this in so that it's just a little bit over flush here. Just a tiny bit. Okay? And right about there. Then I'm going to tighten down the end that's closest the one that's closest to there, and use my hands. Now, if you go to the other side, you see how there's a gap right here? This is going to create a leverage effect, and it's going to pull it together, and it's not going to slip while you're doing it, okay? And I use my hands, okay? And that should be good. It should work there just like that, okay? All right. Now, when you're doing any type of flare, single, double, anything. Now, if this was going on an actual brake line or fuel line, I would want to make sure that I'm using brake fluid or fuel or whatever it's going to run into as my lubricant. This here is just an assignment, so we're going to use a little bit of oil here. So I'm going to put a little bit of oil on this, just like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take my arbor, and I'm going to bring my arbor on here, and I'm going to tighten this down. So it's just like that. So you can see the arbor is directly down onto the brake line right there. So yeah. So then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tighten this down real carefully. And naturally, if you were using this on a car, it doesn't matter if it's a fuel or a brake line or anything like that, you'd want to make sure you put the fitting on before you do this. I don't know how many hundreds of times I've made a brake line and forgot to put the fitting on before I did it. Okay, so now I got this here. If you look down in there, it looks like it's looking like it's pretty good. So let's go ahead and let's remove it and see if we got a good single flare here. So start with the furthest one away. Okay, then I'll go to the closest one. Pull these out. And if you look at this real closely, it looks like it's a good flare. That's a good single flare right there, okay? You cannot use a single flare on a brake line. You can only use a single flare on low pressure fuel or, like I said, some vacuum lines will use a flare too. Okay, so now let's go do a double flare. So we got the same thing. I'm going to use the same spot in the tool. Okay, and I'm going to bring this around, but I'm going to have a little different height on it, and I'm going to show you how to use the height here. So, all right. So I'm just going to bring this in to kind of hold things a little bit. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the adapter, the 3/16 adapter. It says 3/16 right there, right on the head of it. Okay, and I'm going to put this up right next to it. Oh, I'm going to try not to drop it. And I am going to try to hold this with the camera showing here so you can see it. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and I want it to be, you see there's 2 steps on this here. It might be hard to see, but there's 2 steps, 1 and 2. I want it to be to the top of the first step, level with that or slightly higher, just a little bit higher. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to kind of get this into place and I can show it to you a little bit better. So if I'm looking at it, you can see here where I'm at on that double flare there, okay, with the height. And once again, I'm using the beveled side. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tighten this down in there, tighten that side first, then I'm going to tighten this side here. And I'm going to use as much force as I got with my fingers. But so now it's all in the bar. So I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to put this pin, and I'm going to go, the pin is going to go inside of the brake line, and it should slide in there easily. If it does not slide in there easily, please stop and file it again. Now before I do that, I need to put on a little lubricant. Once again, if this was a brake line, I would want to use brake fluid. So I'm going to put a little lubricant there. And then my secret's always been, I always put just a tiny bit of lubricant on the top, right in the bevel, okay? So that way the tool doesn't take a beating, because these tools do take quite a beating. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to adjust it in there. I've got it in there just like that, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tighten this down. And I don't want to squash it too far. I just want to go down till it stops. Okay, so there it stopped right there. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead, I'll back it off. Okay. Take this off of here. Now I'm going to take the tool out. The tool should come out nice and easy. Okay. So I've got right here, you can look at it. So far, so good. I've got this bubble looking flare. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and put the tool back. Because to get the double flare, I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to run this down. I'm going to run this down right here and right into it, just like I would be doing a single flare. Okay, and if you look, that's right there. Okay, I've got it down in there, no tool, right on there, and it's kind of bubbled up. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tighten this down. Once again, I don't want to over tighten it. I just want to go until I feel it kind of stop. Okay, I feel it kind of stop there. Okay, now I'm going to come back off. And you're going to want to practice this a few times because practice makes perfect when it comes to flaring. And even a person who's done many, many, many of them is going to run into a problem every once in a while. So that's so far what I've got right there. Okay, and let's go ahead and loosen this up and see what I got. And there we go. I've got a double flare. Okay, it looks pretty good. It's not perfect, but it looks pretty good. That would hold on a brake line. Thank you very much.